It's a big deal.
It is. It's all the love without the extra bits, you know. It's all about keeping him alive, keeping him fed, keeping a roof over his head. No matter what, I can just love him. It's great.
Are you expected to know all the things all the time, though? Or are they kind of like, oh, man?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They stayed with me before he was born until a couple of weeks after he was born. And they kept saying, no, we're not going to stay. We're not going to stay. We're not going to stay. Then they had the baby and I heard them saying, thank God we stayed. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so yeah, I do get lots of calls. So Mum, is this normal? He keeps moving in his sleep. Yes, it's normal. Oh. Is this normal? He does this. Yes. But I remember my niece was the same. I remember with her first, she phoned me and she said, he doesn't throw up, and all my friends' babies throw up. So is he normal? Like, it's very normal. He just doesn't throw up. She's like, oh, okay then. So there we go.
Oh,
that's babies for you.
Beautiful.
Babies.
Shall we get you fired up and start talking
Yes.
about some juicy things? I mean, we can do the chat about the weather and all that kind of stuff, but I'm fairly
confident.
Oh,
it's shocking. Let's just not.
Yeah.
It must be early for you.
Yeah, it is. Can you tell? I'm in the dark office. My children aren't even up yet. That's how early it is. Like,
oh, wow. Well, thank you.
There's very few people I would do this for, but I'm like, no, I'm going to cry if I can't get this woman in my life. So,
thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for getting up early.
So needed. I think I've been talking to a few different people about, you know, different things to do with trauma and bias and language and all that kind of stuff. And it's just so freaking heavy.
Yeah.
And whilst I definitely want to not, my stuff is all kind of like finding the light in, not making light off. So yeah. I think trauma is not an easy, sexy thing to sell. And I think a huge part of my stuff is trying to get people to go, oh, I could participate in that, and I'm not necessarily going to walk away feeling I'm the most horrible white person that ever existed. So to, I guess, keep people kind of in a space of like, all right, yep, there's some serious stuff going on that we need to like chat about in terms of, oh my God, just all the things. I'll contain myself a little bit, get a bit excited talking about these things. But I guess, finding some, I want people to walk away feeling like, oh, okay, yep, I don't need to be so nervous, so scared, about all of this. I'm sure you've heard this a million times too, but I think a lot of what happens with doulas and midwives, obstetricians, I've got a mix of people listening, is they kind of get a bit, I don't know if we should be doing activism. I don't know. Because that kind of stuff. I want people to be getting in there and go, no. You're not going to do it.
You're the perfect people to do it.
Exactly. So I don't really have a plan. I don't really have set questions. I just like to talk.
Let's just chat.
Yeah. Shall we do that then?
Yeah, let's just chat.
All right.
I love just chatting.
Where do you want to start?
Oh, gosh, yes. Where do I want to start?
I know, it's so open-ended.
So, okay. Actually, let's start with that point about why activism, because I think that's an important thing to talk about. Why activism and why me? And when I say why me, I mean why any of us, why all of us. So the reason I became a birth activist, or realised I was a birth activist and became more of a birth activist, was when I saw the statistics that were released by the Embrace study in the UK. Literally a year ago, a couple of days. And the study showed that Black women are 5 times more likely than white women to die in the perinatal period. Yeah. Pregnancy, birth, and in the year post-birth. And also that our babies are 203% more likely to die before their first birthday. So I had for a long time been looking around the birth world. I've been a doula now for 15 years. And I was looking around the birth world and I kept thinking, I knew why, but why are all the babies white? Why are all the mothers white? Why are all the, the smiley midwives white? where are Black people, where are Asian people? So I started out on a mission to colour in the landscape of birth. So I kept challenging people. So, you know, why don't you have any Black imagery? And why, when you do make the shift towards Black imagery, why is the Black image always next to the negative story? Why is it always next to the stereotype? So why can't we have happy, smiley, fat Black babies, happy Black mums and happy Black dads? Because the narrative doesn't suit you when you see our families as they are. So why can't we have more of that? And people were sort of, oh my God, here she goes, here she goes, here she goes. And I was like, and they said, well, I don't see it. And I said, well, no, because you see yourself reflected continually. Exactly. And because you see yourself reflected, you don't miss yourself. But I'm a mother of 5, and I want my children to see themselves reflected, but I don't want my children to see them. So an example of a negative picture was, and I spoke to them about it, the La Leche League had put up they had some Black imagery on their website, and it was a beautiful mother and daughter, older woman and her daughter with baby. And the picture was next to when your family don't understand, when relationships break down. And I was like, nothing in this picture screams miscommunication, lack of communication, relationship breakdown. This picture screams of, oh, thank God my mum is here. Now, so people think that's all they have to do, just quickly chuck in a Black or Asian face, and that's fine. But nobody thinks about
eating a salad or looking out the window going,
oh, yes, I know. And so sadly, you know, that was like, well, that's the job done. We'll tick the box. But the more I looked into it, the more I talked about it, the more I saw that, you know, that really was, and I knew, but I wanted the entry point really, that it was very much a surface level thing. So I thought, okay, we need to look into this some more. Now, a few years ago, when I read the birthing stats, maternal mortality, it was that Black women were 2 to 3 times more likely to die in the perinatal period than white women. So we come forward a couple of years to 2018, and Black women are 5 times more likely to die. And I thought, hang on, wait, this stat has more than doubled. What has changed? The reasons for why we are more at risk, or the reasons given for why we are more at risk, haven't changed. So the reasons given are, 1, that we're more likely to suffer from pre-existing conditions like hypertension and obesity. 2, we don't access antenatal classes, therefore antenatal care. And 3, we're at the bottom end of the socioeconomic ladder, so we're too poor. So we're too fat, we're too Black, we're too stupid.
Put that in the brochure.
We're too poor, right? And it made no sense to me, because there is no way that the majority of the globe, because the majority of the globe isn't white, but, you know, I'll just put that out there, are designed to die at such rates. And to believe that they are speaks to eugenics, which is the movement that says that white bodies are superior in every sort of way. So if that can't be true, there has to be a reason for it. Why are Black women in the West more prone to hypertension, etc.? Why are Asian women twice as likely to die as white women? Why are mixed dual heritage people more likely to die than white women? So it's got to speak into the system. Now, this is where we can all be activists. A lot of people, they think, well, God, when you talk about these things, Mars, you make me feel guilty. And it's like, well, if you feel guilty, you kind of need to look yourself in the eye, look in the mirror and say, why do I feel guilty about this? Because so many people say to me, I'm not racist. I'm like, that's great. That's good for you. But the system and the structure is.
Yeah.
So you're sat there patting yourself on the back because you're not racist. But you're not doing anything to prevent the racism in the system. So you need to be anti-racist rather than non-racist, because non-racist is passive. I'm all right, Jack. And that's why we're all in trouble, because everyone sits there going, I'm all right, Jack.
Yeah.
And anti-racism is like, whoa, hang on. We need to change this. This isn't right. So everybody can be an activist. So if you're looking at it and thinking it's just me, why is she saying this about me? Then there's obviously something in you that needs challenging, that you need to change, and I can't change it for you. If you go, oh crap, yeah, I'm a bit culpable of that, and I know that the system we're in, now we're getting somewhere, because it's about the wider thing. But if Black women are more prone to particular symptoms, if Asian women are more prone to particular symptoms, then why aren't we dealing with those symptoms? Why have we gone from 2 to 3 times more likely to 5 times more likely? I became a grandmother 7 weeks ago.
Yes, you did.
I did. I have 5 children, and this is just one of my children that started her family. I don't want any of my children to be in the 10 times more likely statistic.
No.
So if it keeps increasing, and if all we keep saying is, well, they're too fat, they're too black, they're too stupid, they're too poor, then nothing will be done. When we discovered that lying babies on their back to sleep, and the campaign, gosh, it was when my oldest, who's now 27, it was when he was a baby, they discovered that when you lay babies on their backs, and I think it came from your side of the world, that the stillbirth rate, the cot death rate dropped by 75% in a year.
Yeah.
So we discovered there was a cause and causality, and decided to do something about it. When we discovered that women or people who smoked tended to have smaller birth weight babies, what did we do? We educated people on the dangers of smoking whilst pregnant. I mean, it wasn't that long ago before you went to the doctor and thought, sort of, have a cigarette and you'll feel fine, you know. I mean, one of the reasons I like watching old movies is seeing the things that they do. And I remember in Hairspray, they do it so well. Then you've got this pregnant woman sat in a bar drinking cocktails and having a puff, you know, and it's, you know, and cigarette packets that had, you know, doctors' ads on them saying, you know, this makes you feel better, etc. But of course, we learned that that's not true. So then we threw resources and time and education into it, and we made sure that people knew about that. And what happened? Now, far fewer people smoke when pregnant. Even post-pregnancy, as a doula, the number of people I've seen that have given up smoking, partners that have given up smoking in the run-up to conception, or on discovering a pregnancy, that have just given up smoking, or certainly cut it right back, is incredible, because we know it's bad. So where are the resources that go into the communities and reach the Black and Asian families that say, listen, I don't know what it is about you coming here, living here on our diet, it doesn't suit your body, and you're more prone to diabetes. So what can we do? So I recently read a study about type 2 diabetes, but it was about men. It was sent to me by a past client, and it showed that white men did well on the regime they were put under for treating diabetes, but African men did worse. So we know that different people, different bodies like different foods and respond better to them. So perhaps what we need to do is, instead of doing more research papers or more PhDs that are stuffy books on shelves, because we've got loads of those and we've had those for ages, but nobody's reading the things. I almost said something else then. Excellent. No one's reading the fuckers. They're just dusty on a shelf somewhere. I've done my PhD, which is great and a fantastic achievement. But if it just remains a book on a shelf, then it changes nothing. For 40, 50, for decades, birth workers, Black and brown birth workers, have been saying, we're dying at unacceptable rates. Our rates of maternal death are much higher. And we haven't even looked in detail at the morbidity, the near misses. I was lucky. So who should be an activist? We should all be activists, doctors, doulas, midwives. we should all be activists, because surely the reason we're in this world of birth is because we love birth, and we want to see people and their babies come through whole and healthy. Why else have we got all the interventions that we've got? They weren't, most of them weren't designed to cause us trouble. They're designed to, take a pretty well-oiled machine and oil it some more. And I say that because the cesarean rate has gone up, the induction rate has gone up, but the maternal deaths don't seem to be particularly going down.
I know, it's kind of like getting a bit... I wonder sometimes, actually, like when brand new shiny students are like, I'm going to do baby work, it's amazing. And then they sit down and go, like what are we even telling them? Oh, this is just like what birth is? Like, sorry, you're going to have to toughen up a bit. Like, what are we telling them?
I've met so many people that have gone into midwifery with the aim of, working with babies and seeing happy, glorious births. And within a few years, they've walked away from the field because actually it's not pretty. And it should be. It should be glorious and it should be incredible. But what we've done is we've taken something and just tried to refine a physiological process, but walked into a world of fear and litigation and made it a prophylactic process. I'll keep doing these things to prevent that happening, rather than saying, well, let's see where we go, and okay, there's an issue, let's deal with it. We're too busy trying to deal with issues before they become issues, creating brand new issues. Now, I think medicine is wonderful, and I think doctors and midwives and all of that are wonderful. But sometimes everybody just gets a little bit too gung-ho, and the worst statement I've ever heard, quite apart from the "do you want a dead baby" card, which is played regularly, is but we, the medical professionals, want a good outcome. I'm sorry. What do you think the parents want? They want it far more than you do, because this stays with them for their entire lives. So what can we do? To be an activist, it's simply about stirring that pot and saying, do you know what? These things are unacceptable and we need to change them. How are we going to change them? So I met a fantastic obstetrician recently. We both met on the same radio show that we'd been asked to appear on, and then we met somewhere else, and then we met again on a radio station. I was like, okay, we're obviously supposed to be in each other's circle. And she's an obstetrician, an African woman, Dr. Christina Ketche, who is working really hard to close the disparity, the gaps, to ensure the health of Black and Asian women. And the very first time I met her was when I was in the hospital with a lovely young Asian couple who were being treated badly. And so I get really super duper lovely, and yeah, it's either that or get thrown out because I'm killing people left, right, and centre.
Then you're an aggressive, angry Black woman. We don't want that.
Oh, honey, I'm totally living with the title "angry Black woman" because actually I'm fucking furious that we're dying at such rates. So it's like, you want to label me angry? You've got me pegged, because I'm really angry about this. But yeah, it's about sort of managing the space, and then having had a white doctor come in and really talk down to this couple and say, well, we are going to do this and we are going to do that and we are going to do the other, the end. And this couple are like, whoa, we had a bad experience the first time, this is why we've got you, Miles. And so because we've got you, we're going to say to that doctor, back up, give us 5 minutes to think. We make the decisions here because it's our baby. And the shift changed, and the lovely Dr. Christina Ketche came in, and she talked to them and said, well, actually, all seems well. I would like it if this baby was out within X amount of time, she said, because a couple of things that I'm not completely happy with, but you seem to be cracking on. So I reckon by the time I get back in an hour or so, you'll have had that baby. But if you need me before, call me. When she left, this couple are just like, oh my God, this woman is amazing, because she looked at them, she listened to them, she heard them, and she treated them like equals.
Yeah.
She didn't talk down to them at all. Changed the atmosphere in that birthing room completely. When she popped back in later, they're holding this baby that's born vaginally, and they're absolutely over the moon, because the first baby was a cesarean, because they felt pushed and bullied into it. So this wasn't we're going to have a vaginal birth at all costs, but we want to have a vaginal birth. If we can have a vaginal birth, let's have it. And she came in, and they were, oh, thank you. She's like, oh, I didn't do anything. You did that. How hard is it to leave agency in the hands of the parents, even if there's something that might need to happen that isn't great? That maybe they do need a cesarean, maybe it is going to be an emergency cesarean, maybe they will need forceps, maybe they will need Ventouse, maybe they will need induction. But how hard is it to make people feel heard and safe and valued in that space? And so I talked to Dr. Christine afterwards. I saw her in the corridor, and then when I saw her at the radio show, she walked in. I was like, oh my God, it's you, I love you. I said to her, what's the difference between you and other doctors? She said, I don't know. She said, I just think it only takes an extra 5 minutes to be nice.
Not even that, I'd imagine.
Right?
Yeah.
And she was right, that's all it was. Because actually, she wasn't really saying anything much different to the doctor that had come in before her. She just spoke to this couple. So if you're a doctor or a midwife and you're working with birthing people all the time, with these women having their babies, then surely your activism is saying, do you know what? I'm going to treat you like you are the most amazing person in the world. Every time. Now, I don't think that doctors, midwives, doulas go in to do harm, but sometimes we do, because we don't listen.
Yeah.
Maybe we've had a long day. Maybe the shift has just been a shift too far, the shift from hell. But for me, it's painful when a client phones me up and says, please read the email I sent you. And I read the email, because we can't talk. And I read the email that was sent 5 minutes before, saying the racist midwife that booked us in and treated us awfully is in charge of our care today. And I had a cesarean last night, and everyone treated me wonderfully, and she is pushing me around and examining me really roughly and talking to me like I'm stupid. That shouldn't be my job. To sit and stand guard over a couple who should be enjoying those first hours and moments and days of their baby's life. And so for me, as a doula, as a Black doula, as a birth activist, advocacy becomes more important. Now, we all define doulaing in different ways, and over here in the UK, we're not advocates. We're not there to speak for the parents, etc. And yet, Black and Asian women are dying because they're not being heard. So I need to switch on my advocacy for them. So if you're a doctor or a midwife, you can switch on your advocacy for these people, that are more at risk. I have this gorgeous actor friend, Nicholas Pinnock, and he says, we were chatting in his kitchen one day. I told him to make bread, just thought I'd put that out there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I have to say, he's much better bread maker than me now. He puts all sorts of stuff in it. I'm like, oh my God, what did you do? And he's like, oh yes, this is a little olive and onion bread that I just threw together. Anyway, lovely. I know. So we were chatting in the kitchen, and he said, there are all the different isms, all the different forms of bigotry, all the different forms of vulnerability. And he said, if we just looked around the room and said, you're the weakest, you're the most vulnerable, you're the most at need, so we are all going to lift you up. And once we've lifted you up, we're all going to look around the room again and say, oh, now you're the most vulnerable, you're the weakest, you're the most in need, let's lift you up. Now imagine if we did that for the lowest in our society, and let's face it, in the West, the lowest in society are going to be more likely to be the Indigenous people, the black, the brown, you know. If we treat them well, if we can treat them well, surely all of society benefits, because if they're the lowest and we treat them as though they were the highest, then what are we doing for everyone else? Society improves when we include, when we bring everybody in, when we don't judge because of how you look, what you say, what your skin color is, where you're from. If we remembered that people were people, and this isn't about being colorblind, because that's a stupid statement. Absolutely stupid statement. Talk to someone who's colorblind, who puts on those glasses and they suddenly see all the colors. How the world is enriched by seeing colors. And I've always said it's not about not seeing color. It's about what you do when you do see color. Do you discriminate? Do you make assumptions? Do you add people to the negative stereotypes and tropes? Do you listen to someone like me who says, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that? Oh my God, you're such a bullying, angry black woman. There was an Instagram post, and it was quite problematic, and lots of black people and brown people said, I find this post really problematic. And the woman who owned the account said, oh, well, I don't see it like that. This is how I meant it to be. This is how it should be. And then another black woman said, yeah, but it's really problematic. And this is why it's problematic. And this is why it's triggering. And this is why it's hurtful. And this is why it's insulting. And all of a sudden, then in come the fragile brigade. Stop bullying her. No one's bullying her. They've said, this is how it makes me feel. And she said, well, it doesn't make me feel like that. And if I don't feel like that, then it's fine. Even though the majority of people were saying it. She did eventually take it down, but it took a long time. You know, and actually taking it down, what did someone tell me that was called? Oh, a dirty delete. I was like, oh, what? And she said, it's a dirty delete. When people, instead of saying, do you know what? I got that wrong. And here's why. We'll quickly hide it and shove it away and not talk about it again. Because actually what that does is it leaves the people going, oh my God, look at the way they hounded that poor woman, how she had to delete this amazingly beautiful post from her Instagram account because everybody makes it about race. You know, so to be an activist is to challenge those things. To be an activist, to be sort of to be the oppressor is to say, do you know what? I got it wrong and I'm learning. Okay. I'm sorry.
I think that's a huge part of it is so many people just, I don't know, we've been conditioned to kind of be, you don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think like the higher kind of up you are in like birth work, the more likely you're going to get sued. It seems the less likely you're willing to say, oh, probably wasn't my best decision. Oh, probably could have done that differently. It's like, nope, nothing to see here. And I think that's such a huge problem. I see it a lot also just in trauma things in general when people are kind of like, oh, well, if I had, you know, those types of clients, whatever those types of clients, whatever trauma, oh, I would know. Oh, but I haven't gone and done any extra training in whatever it might be, trauma. We like saying we're trauma informed, but it's like, well, what kind of trauma and what information and how are you acting on it? But I see it as, oh, but I don't want to get it wrong. And I'm like, well, getting an acronym wrong is like one thing. Like, you know, if you're so worried about that, and yet we go back to like like babies dying, women dying, you can get an acronym wrong. Like, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Why are we so funny about making mistakes?
I know. And the whole discomfort thing. So I was speaking at an event because people seem to like me speaking at events. And I spoke at this event and I said, and one of the things that I say when I start is I've no time for white fragility, white tears, white centering, white saviorism and white discomfort. I said, I'm 52. I've sat in my discomfort for 52 years. You can sit in your discomfort for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and people say, I don't like that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, that's great. But she's dying.
Yeah.
So if we're going to weigh things up, I'm thinking her dying is just a little more important than you feeling a bit ouchy inside because you're not being perceived as perfect. No one wants perfection. Well, we all want perfection, but no one wants perfection. We just want loving, dignified care. We want to be heard. And, you know, we joked earlier about me being the angry, aggressive black woman, but imagine you're talking to a doctor or a midwife or a doula and you're saying, I disagree with that. And then bang, you're being aggressive. Bang, you're being angry. Bang, you're being bullying. So what do you do when people say, well, if you're going to behave like that, I'm not going to be able to treat you. I'm going to withdraw treatment. I'm going to refuse treatment. So what do? You go quiet and you become a good girl. And then you're more likely to be abused and you're more likely to walk out with trauma if you walk out at all. So we look at trauma-informed care, but before that black or brown or Indigenous woman has come into the maternity system, what has she lived with from birth through to that point? Black women live on a really high level of stress, even when we don't think we do, but that's because you're so used to it.
Yeah.
You kind of don't know it's there.
Microaggressions. All those little times that, you know, your cortisol fires up and you feel attacked in some way, shape or form. And people are like, oh, but you're angry. I'm like, well, I wonder why. We've lost your sound. Can you hear me? Oh.
Am I there?
Yes, you are now. I thought you were just taking a really long dramatic pause. No, hang on.
I wasn't actually. I pressed something, me and tech. I'm going to leave that right there. So talking of microaggressions, I had a client who was talking to me about my family. Now, I have 5 children, and of course I'm a black woman, so the first question is, oh, are they all yours? Not from this client. It's like, sorry, are they all same father? And it's like, yes, because contrary to the narrative that you have out there, black women aren't fecund and black men aren't bounders that get you pregnant and run away.
Yeah.
That happens in all groupings all over the world. Shits are shits, whoever they are, right? So I'm talking to this client, and I happened to mention that I was divorced, and she said, oh, what does their father do? And we just talked a little bit, and she said, of course, you know, those men, they just abandon and they take no responsibility. And I suddenly thought, oh, she thinks my ex-husband's black. So I said to her, of course, one of the hardest things in our marriage was the fact that his family were really racist and couldn't cope with my black skin. And the shock, horror on her face when she realized that my ex-husband was white and she had put on him all the stereotypes and the narrative within her as to what black men were like. Conversation changed really quickly after that. But, you know, it's constant. It's just an assumption. It's just an assumption. So these black and brown and Indigenous women, before they've even walked into the maternity system, are living with this all the time. When I was growing up, oh, you speak really well for a black person.
Oh my God.
What does that mean?
Oh my God.
Oh, you're quite good looking for a black person. Well, what does that mean?
You're quite fucking rude for whatever you are.
Well, I did end up saying that as I got older, but of course you keep hearing these things. And my parents' generation, they just wanted to get by. So keep it quiet. And then my generation were like, hang on, no, I don't like that. And now my kids' generation, I'm like, so where's your girlfriend from? South London. No, I mean, where's she from? Dulwich? No, more specifically, East Dulwich? What's her country of origin? What's her family background? And it's because she had this unusual name, and I was trying to place where in the world the name would have come from. And he went, oh, she's from Ghana. I was like, thank you. And it's lovely that they're there, that they're at that spot, but it's very frustrating for me. But so they speak up a lot more. And I've taught my daughters particularly that they don't need to be polite. So I always tell stories to illustrate my point. So my eldest daughter, when she was at uni, worked in a supermarket. And this guy kept coming in and asking her out and asking her out and asking her out. And she was having to moan to me. And I was a bit tired and fed up of hearing the same old story about this guy coming in and asking her out. And I really flippantly said, oh, why don't you just tell him you've got a boyfriend? You did not raise a strong, independent young black woman to tell some man she can't be his property because she's the property of another. And I was like, so ashamed and so proud. But that's the difference. That's the difference that's coming. I think the internet's been wonderful for black and brown people, because actually we're beginning to see that I'm not the only one who feels like this. So our voices have started to join together, and now everyone's going, oh, hang on, oh, we don't like this. It was all right when they were being good, but now they're not being good anymore. Now they're questioning the status quo. And it's not because we want to replace the oppressor. That's because we don't want the oppression. We want to be able to walk alongside each other. So we should all be activists. We should all make sure that, do you know what? Am I thinking that because of that book that I read that said that black people experience pain in a different way to white people, am I not treating this person because I believe that subconsciously? Am I making sure to diagnose this person well? Sickle cell, thalassemia, but sickle cell in black people, hardly taken seriously. I just recently lost a friend to sickle cell, and she was in her 50s and had never been diagnosed with it, been told that she had a trait, but that was it. But she kept getting ill, and every time she got ill, nothing would be done. But there was nowhere in her records that said that she had sickle cell, because it's not something that's particularly looked at unless you're within the black community and you're looking at it. So those are the kinds of things we need to change. We need to think about things like that diabetes study. And if diabetes studies show that white men do better on the protocol than black men, then what do we change about the protocol so that black men do better? If black women are 5 times more likely to die, what do we need to change within our system, within our practice, to ensure that they don't die at greater rates? Any loss is an awful thing. And I know that it's important that people remember that maternal mortality is quite low. But if within that low statistic you are at the highest risk, that needs looking at. And we can't just sort of say, well, we're not going to talk about that because actually it's not that important because the rates are low. Statistics only work for statisticians.
Yeah, that's right.
The people who are the statistic. I had a woman call me and she said that she went to her doctor 5 times because she was fitting after birth, and the doctor told her it was stress. And I said, you need to go back to that doctor and you need to say this: I do not wish to be the 5 times more likely. I need you to hear what I'm saying. Because the doctor wouldn't even refer her for tests or anything. Just said, nope, it's just stress. Bye-bye.
Well, in that case, we'd all be walking around
fitting.
Yeah, and that would just be like a normal thing. Like,
Yeah. And then, of course, we need to deal with the trauma that these people suffer during birth. Sometimes people have incredibly great births from the outside.
Yeah.
But actually, they've walked away really, really traumatized.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do?
You've got a healthy baby. Oh, you've got a healthy baby. I would really like us to have a proper think about, like, what is health?
Yeah. And also, in a way, so what if I've got a healthy baby? If I'm broken?
Exactly.
If I'm damaged? If I'm no longer healthy?
Yeah.
Because that baby's not going to stay healthy if I'm broken. My family is not going to stay healthy if I'm damaged, if I'm broken. And, I was talking to this amazing woman, a mumologist. She is on Instagram, and full disclosure, she was my client years ago. But, she's an Asian woman and she's a psychologist. And I said to her, where are the black and brown psychologists? Because actually, why would I, as a black woman, want to talk to a white woman about my trauma, especially if it's race-based? If they're going to tell me, not black women, all women. So you've silenced and erased me, and now you're going to tell me that you're going to help me heal, when the biggest part of my trauma is being ignored because it makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So how do you become an activist? You look in the mirror and you say, what one thing can I change in my practice? What one thing can I change? Am I sat round having a coffee in a staff room on a break, or talking to someone as I'm walking along? Oh, well, those people.
Those people over there. I love that.
They
phrase.
do this, yeah. They behave, they exhibit, they. We need to stop othering people. I hear all the time, so I was told at the hospital that this is what I need to do because the doctor said if it was their wife, their mother, their sister. And I think, well, one, it's not. But if you can say that in a threatening way, so this is what you should do, I would do, then why can't you do it in a loving way? Oh my God, if you were my mum, you were my sister, you were my daughter, this is how I would treat you. Same coin, flip side.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what I do at the moment, and that's hugely, hugely important to me. Because I don't want to look around in a few years and go, how the hell did we get to 10 times more likely?
Yeah. And it's a real possibility. We were talking before also just about near misses, and I worry about the funnel of people who are in the like, oh, but you didn't die. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then we give it 12 months. All right, well, you haven't fallen, to maternal suicide. So if that doesn't get you, and the suicide doesn't get you, we've got postnatal depression actually peaks when your oldest child is 4. So we're talking the life cycle of 5 years. If you make it out alive after 5 years, but you've got a healthy baby.
Yes. And it's awful. And, even simple things in the way we talk. Well, I've delivered 100 babies. Have you? Did they come with baskets and bows? Are you the stork? Because last I looked, that person there was the one going through the labour, and that person there was the one birthing their baby.
I can't stand it when you see those news articles like, here this big thing about, when an obstetrician delivers like twins vaginally, and you're like, I'm sorry, you did what? What did, where's the mum? Where's the mum? Where is she in all of this?
Did she not rock up that day?
No, she just left her body and put it somewhere, and then someone removed, and then, it's just the way that we talk about birth is like, oh, wow, something done to you, instead of like, where's the parade? Where's the...
Yeah, we're supposed to be the support team. We're not the birther in that instant. We're the support team. We're there to say, oh, you're doing bloody great. Or, that's looking a bit tricky. How can I help you through this bit? You know, just, I don't know, just when I supported a stillbirth, I remember that one of the things that the mum said all the way through the labour was, I just want my baby to be born with grace and dignity. We knew the baby was dead. She knew the baby was dead. But it was just as important to her in birthing her stillborn child, who was still born, that little girl had a graceful and a dignified entrance into the world. I hate that phrase. Oh, leave your dignity at the door when you come in to have a baby. Why?
Yeah.
Well, so many people are going to be up your vagina. Why?
Exactly.
I was at a birth earlier this year, when a doctor who hadn't even met my client particularly was insistent that he did a vaginal exam. And my client said, no, the midwife has been doing it, and if you want it checked, I would really rather that she did it again, because I hate these things, and she's amazing, really gentle hands. And the doctor said, but I need to know what's going on. And the husband said, well, the midwife will tell you. And the doctor said, okay, fine, and walked out of the room. And as he walked out of the room, he said to the midwife, you go back in there and make sure that I do that vaginal exam. So he came in, wore my client down, did the vaginal exam, walked off, and we never saw him again. So what was that about? Did you just need to shove your hand up a woman's vagina? Because we didn't see him again at all. Yes, you seem to be progressing. And then he was gone. Well, the midwife could have told him that. Not all doctors do that. That one was the first one I felt like chasing down the corridor with a steel pan. But
to play bingo, it's like, right, 5 points. I've done that today. Otherwise,
yes,
I'm not useful.
And yet, a simple thing like saying, okay, I'll let's hear what the midwife says. Because the midwife didn't call him to do the vaginal exam. The midwife knew where this client was all the way through. He just decided that he needed to know what was going on in the room, and the only way he could know is if his hands were inside this woman. And when we treat people like that, it's more important that I do what I do and I know what I know than I speak to you and hear what you want. I remember a doctor saying to my client once, if your doula says you need a cesarean, then you know you need a cesarean. Because she'd come to the place, and it's such a gorgeous doctor. He sat down with her for ages and said, listen, I really, really feel that we need to get this baby out now. He said, I'm really concerned about the decels and the dips. I'm really concerned about what I'm feeling and the way your womb is going. He said, I'm feeling Bandle's ring. And she said to me, what do I do? And I said, what do you want to do? She said, and she'd been labouring for 2 days, I think, at this point. And I said, what do you want to do? She says, well, I don't want to have a cesarean if it's not necessary. And so we talked about it, and I said, well, there's nothing wrong with having a cesarean if for some reason your baby has chosen that way to be born. A cesarean birth is as valid as a vaginal birth. And the doctor went, wow. I said, what? And he said, I don't think I've ever heard a doula talk about cesareans like that before. I went, I'm sure we do. And in the end, my client, after a couple of hours, she said, do you know what? She said, I do want a cesarean. Because I don't know if it was that she needed permission to do that, because her heart was so set on a vaginal birth. I mean, I go in and I say to them, listen, I can't promise you the perfect birth. I'm not going to do these things. I can't make these things happen. But if you're informed and you use informed consent, then you'll get a good birth. And I supported that woman again a couple of years later when she had her next child. Same story. This baby just was not coming vaginally. And she was absolutely, and I used this phrase and someone told me off for it because language doesn't translate in this two countries that speak the same language. I said, oh, she was absolutely gutted but glad. And I realised afterwards what they heard was that gutted like a fish.
Oh. Yeah, right.
And I meant gutted as in, damn it.
Yes.
You know. But she was really disappointed. But if you talk to her now, and I still talk to her, she'll tell you that she had 2 good births because she made the decisions and we all listened to her. So I'm like, if you want an epidural, you have an epidural. I'm not going to stop you from having one. I'm going to, you know, remind you of the pros and cons, but the decision is yours because it's you and your baby, not me and my baby. If, you know, if you decide you want to have a cesarean, I'm not going to say to you, oh, you can't have a cesarean. I'm a doula. We don't do cesareans.
No,
you know,
to walk out.
Yes, absolutely. And surely that's all activism is. It's listening and changing the things that aren't working, tackling the system, because the system is big. And I had a woman talk. She's known as a birth guru, and she was selling one of her books, and she laughed and she said, oh, I can't change the system. We can't. The system's too big. It's not something that you can do. And I sat there thinking, the fuck are you saying? If you join with you, who joins with you, who joins with you, who joins with you, who joins with me, who joins with you, who joins with me, then we change the system. We change the system maybe one birth at a time, maybe one hospital at a time, maybe one country at a time. But we change the system. And the system has to change because Black women, brown women, our voices are loud now. And it's like, no, we don't want any more of your PhDs. And we're totally fucked off with your research, which keeps bringing you back to the same place. What we want is action. What we want is to know that when we put our bodies in your hands, we take them back. And we come out of here alive and healthy. Serena Williams is a morbidity statistic. Beyonce is a morbidity statistic. There are incredibly wealthy, intelligent Black women in the States who are the statistic. Because despite being at the peak of health, despite going to all the classes, despite having lots of money, them and all their babies have died. Eric Garner in the States, the Black man that died at the hands of the police, his daughter died months after she had her baby. If you think of the cumulative stress that she lived with, and then the stress of what happened to her father, and now she's pregnant and she has a baby and she died. So we need to look at the whole, we need to look at the system, we need to look at where people have come from. And we have to stop doing this top-down thing. I've decided that this is what we need to do to save your life. This is what I'm going to do to benefit you. We complain that people don't come into us. Does it never occur to us that maybe we should go out to them? And what about the ethnic groups, the cultures and the countries where family is so integral to everything, where a baby's born and 1,000 people appear and the midwife's like, you're only allowed 2 visitors, and there's like a whole crowd of people coming in. So if you've got cultures where it's this huge family thing, then why aren't we tailoring our education to the family rather than just the couple? So that practices that might not be the best can be dealt with, and people can say, oh, actually, it isn't a good idea to do that thing that we do. I mean, I love my mum, and the older I get, the more I like her I get.
Oh no.
She's
Open
like,
your mouth and your mother comes out.
Yep, she's like, the baby's teeth in, rub a little rum on him, gum. A little rum. It's like, I'm not sure I want to put neat alcohol on my newborn baby's gums. Yes, it's fine. You know, just things.
Yeah.
She's not there, pour him a glass and watch him swig it, type of thing.
No,
but
not
she's
Scottish people like in my family in the
yeah,
past.
it's like,
Let's knock the baby out with some opium. Yeah.
wow. So if you think about what we used to put inside of babies' bottles,
I know.
a little nip of this to help it sleep at night,
Uh-huh.
a little bit of cereal so it's the same thing. But there's always that aunt, that mum, that uncle, that sister, that cousin that has got the outdated and or dangerous piece of advice.
Crying is good for their lungs. Just leave them. Yes.
You know the baby's healthy. You can hear it crying. It's like, well, I knew it was healthy before it was crying, but if we educate the family, if we bring the family into the process, then those things don't happen. If we educate the family, then instead of being told, no, just listen to what they tell you, do what they say, and we'll just pray that you come back to us.
Yeah.
You say, no, you can question these things, it's not true that happens. That doesn't have to happen. No, we don't have higher pain thresholds. No, our skin isn't thicker. And we can, as surgeons, we can look at black skin and think about keloid scarring. Do some research. What is keloid scarring? Why does it affect these people? And what are the adverse effects of it? So what can I do? How can I operate so that this woman doesn't get keloid scarring in her cesarean section? Simple things. To be an activist, you can march with banners. You can sit in high-profile government meetings. You can change one thing in your practice. Everyone can do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can change the freaking imagery on your Facebook page or your website but don't do it to tick a box.
Make yourself feel good. Yeah.
There's this woman, I think she's American, Rachel Cargill. She's on Insta as well, and Facebook and places like that. And she says that to just make a place diverse without dealing with the racism brings black people into unsafe, violent spaces. So if you're going to make your website diverse or make your website inclusive, then make sure that you deal with the implicit bias and the racism that you hold. And don't be afraid of it. This fabulous doula, I remember there's this huge to-do with the doula organization I used to be a member of. And I left because it's like, well, if you're not going to make it a safe space for black people, then I ain't going to be there. See ya. And she said, your tone is wrong. If you said this better, then it would be easier for us to deal with. And I'm like, mate, we didn't say very sweetly, please could you release the chains that you've put us in, having enslaved us. Thank you very much.
We rose.
Yes, we rose up, we fought, and we broke free. Anyway, 18 months after this big to-do and her explaining how it put people like her off because our tone was wrong, even though no one was shouting and no one was actually being toneful in any way. But basically what that means is, you're speaking to somebody white and you're not supposed to talk to me like that, is what tone policing is. Anyway, after 18 months, she came back and she said, listen, don't hold me up as an example. But that stayed with me. And I looked around my house and I looked at my bookshelf and I looked at my child's bookshelf and I looked at the toys and I looked at the things that we watched and I looked at the places that we went. And I've put myself on a journey and I'm learning to decolonize my mind. She's not perfect, but she's changed something that has impacted her life, her partner's life, her child's life, and the lives of the people she comes into contact with. I recently ran a reproductive justice retreat, and one of the testimonials is that this retreat has changed the lives of the women I haven't met yet. And when we change our practice, when we become birth activists, we change the lives of the people we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
I mean, how fabulous is that?
That's so good. That is so good.
I know. I'm just playing with an image in my mind now, you see, now that I said that. Because, you know, as when you carry your girl baby, when you carry a baby with ovaries, she's got all the eggs that she's ever going to have.
Yeah.
So imagine if that's what our activism is. In starting our activism, we're incubating a life with lots of eggs. So that, see, it will work eventually in my brain. I'll go away.
I know, I can see your face. You're like, I'm just about to get to a gold nugget. I haven't quite polished it yet, but it's nearly there.
But it's kind of there. Yeah. So you heard it first. You heard it first.
We'll use it as a soundbite. Yep. We'll get
there. But, you know, it's like when we change, the lives that we change and the lives that those lives will change. Someone asked me why I do this, and I said, well, it's not for the money. I said, and it's not for the fame. I said, you know what I want out of this? What I want out of this is legacy.
Yeah.
I don't care if people have forgotten my name in a generation. I mean, I'd be a little bit pissed, but I'd be a bit dead, so maybe it wouldn't matter so much. But, you know, but I want to leave behind people who are doing the work and doing more than I'm able to do in 2019, 2020. I've decided I want to retire into my lovely beach home in St. Lucia, and I've got my rocking chair on the sand, looking out to sea, watching beautiful rastas go by. I told you I've got it all planned.
Yeah.
And I want to be visited by different people from across the world, and I want to hear about the things that they're doing. So I want to hear about my legacy, how this conversation that I had with someone, this podcast that I did with someone else, changed one life. That changed 1,000 lives, that changed 1,000,000 lives, that dismantled a system. You know, because that's what it's about, making the change and just, you know, making sure that we are all treated with grace and dignity. And when I talk about black and brown lives and them mattering, it doesn't mean it's because I don't think white ones do. And that's the mistake people make. I don't think anyone would ever
get that from you. I think this is why so much I wanted to. I'm like, I don't think anyone is going to get that.
Oh, I don't know. I have my moments. No, but you know, but it's not fucking pie. By wanting the best, black women are dying, and I want to see that stop. I certainly want to see the disparity closed.
Yeah.
I was at the first ever Black Maternal conference in London early in September. The conference is about black maternal health. The conference is about the fact that black women are 5 times more likely to die than white women. A senior NHS midwife cuts through the question time, hasn't submitted a question, hasn't waited to get the mic, and explains why white lives are as important. I'm thinking she didn't read the programme that's talking about a very specific thing. It was awful. It was awful. My face told a different story, but my body sat there calmly.
I imagine the collective.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not saying that white bodies don't matter. What I'm saying is that black ones suffer more. So I'm looking around the room. I found the weakest, the most vulnerable, and the most in need. And I want to raise them up. And if by raising them up, it means that you become the weakest, the most vulnerable, and the most in need, well, now I'm going to turn around and make sure that I lift you up. And we're going to keep going until we're all lifted up. You treat a black woman well, you treat the black women, the brown women, the Indigenous women in your care well, you will heal your society. You know, because these are the least. And if you do your best for the least, surely it's win, 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 win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all right. I just wish her on.
This is the problem. I'm just so happy to sit and like have the chat. I just don't want you sitting here for 3 hours without a pee break.
Well, you know, I have been known to chat for 3 hours. But yeah, I think it's important. I think the conversation needs to keep going. I think we know that the issue is there.
Mm.
Now we've got to decide what we're going to do about it.
Mm.